how he wanted to do that. I didn't know if he wanted to caution tape around. There's several communities around us that are doing that.
Put some caution tape on the playground equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or putting snow fence.
Yeah. The issue with that is, of course, you're using. It would take a lot of caution tape to go around that or snow fence. So. Testing. All right, we are live right now. I will post this link on the Facebook page in about 10 minutes. So.
Another 2 minutes, you can dial in. He has all the information he needs.
Yep.
Okay.
Right here.
And you can see the TV.
Yep.
But it doesn't have anything on it.
No, not yet.
It should. That's because it did when I was up there before. Let's see. Cast my screen. Wi-Fi disconnected. Well, I am connected to the Wi-Fi. And I can see the ambient mode of the TV. Can you see this?
The white light? Yes.
Okay, now let's see if we can get to see the slides.
Do we want curtains?
I don't know how beneficial that'll be. It might still black us out a little bit more with the brightness.
the slides.
There, that's perfect. We don't need those closed. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get rid of the background light anyway. Now, with PowerPoint on your phone,
Mhm.
if you touch, you get a laser pointer. You see it on this TV. I'm at number 4 now. 3.
Yes, I see it on there. We're in this has a little bit longer of a delay. I think it's because we're on the library Wi-Fi. I'm wondering if I switch over to here.
Switch over to
my hotspot here.
that may have a little bit of a difference.
trying to get used to this new phone. I went from an Apple product to an Android product, so.
I suppose.
You gonna be Alex?
Oh, shoot. All right.
Welcome. This service is... If you are the host, press star now. Please enter your PIN followed by the pound or hash. Thank you. There is one other participant in the conference. The recording has started. Please announce yourself.
Maxwell City Council.
Yeah.
Who do we have on?
Megan.
Megan or?
Hi, Megan.
Are you also watching on YouTube, Megan?
What was that?
Are you also watching on YouTube?
No.
Okay.
Do I need to?
No. Just follow along with your agenda packet.
Okay.
You are right now on item 7M.
Yeah, I was kind of scrolling through them.
No worries.
There we go.
We'll see how fast this drains my battery.
And as we go to new agenda items after 4A, then each agenda item is a separate slide. And I will go to the next slide, and if you just introduce the item and take at least 5 to 7 seconds, and people will see the new text.
Perfect. I believe this is in regards to Iowa Code 21.8, right? Is that the public meeting code? That's right. I've been dealing with that all day with the school board too.
What'd you find out about the libraries?
They never answered me back,
The league?
but I know they've been bombed with a lot of stuff. There was a couple of clerks that hadn't heard back on some of their questions either.
So is the school board meeting by phone conference?
That's the plan. We have a meeting tomorrow night, and then another one Thursday, and then another one the following Thursday. Hi, Alex.
Hi.
But we're going to be using Zoom. Right now, they have a period of time where you have unlimited access, so you don't get stopped at that 40-minute mark. So
And are you providing a toll-free number for participants?
So Zoom, rather than YouTube, does not have a delay. So we are not doing toll-free. They're just using.
Everybody's using their tablets.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, we can't guarantee that here.
Right.
What about, you're dealing with a public meeting?
Mhm.
Okay, so what happens if the public wants to attend?
They can also
What happens if they don't have a computer?
right.
Have you eliminated public participation? Oh,
Doug Miller.
Hi, Doug.
hi, Wes.
Hey, guys.
And to a certain extent, that was the concern I had.
Good evening.
Good evening.
On the library.
Yeah.
They posted an agenda, said they're gonna have an electronic meeting. And they said, if you would like to attend, give us a call and we will give you the number you can dial. Well, I don't think that qualifies as a public meeting.
Right.
And
Ken Jans.
Hi, Ken.
And if you don't allow the public, maybe saying that everybody has to have a computer is reasonable. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to get by that. We also don't post our the public meeting does not get posted in the newspaper. It gets posted on the doors of the school.
And a Facebook page.
And I don't know if they put it on the Facebook page or not. So,
But the city code may, or not city code, but the state code may allow it. We have to post an agenda in 3 locations, is it? We still haven't met it yet, in 3 locations. And we have to specify what those 3 locations are in our ordinance.
Okay.
The school may have a similar rule, but it has to be posted in 3 locations.
Okay.
And they just have to announce where those 3 locations are.
so it looks like we lost connection again on the PowerPoint.
Yeah. And it's still just a screensaver,
Yep.
Wi-Fi disconnected. Well, that's live and learn, I guess.
Yeah. While you play with that, I'm going to call it to order. If that's okay with you.
Sure.
All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. We're going to start with roll call. Steve,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Ken, Ken,
Yes.
okay, and Doug.
Yes.
All right, next up, approval of agenda. You each should have in your emails the agenda, and it should be all lined out. It's a pretty lengthy one. Is there a motion or discussion?
This is Doug. I move we approve the agenda.
Moved by Doug,
I'll second.
second by Alex. Steve,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Megan.
Yes.
All right. Next up is citizens forum. Before I go on to this, due to the COVID-19 crisis, the city of Maxwell is holding this city council meeting in regulation with Iowa Code 21.8, the electronic meeting code. If you'd like to participate just before the meet, or I guess if you haven't already, call in to 844-855-4444. Enter the access code 47107, and then you should be able to get connected. There is a 7-second delay on YouTube, so if you're watching on YouTube, you can expect to see that.
And those instructions are posted on the Facebook page,
Perfect.
city Facebook page.
Yep. And if you didn't,
Very hard to hear.
okay.
Just repeat what I said.
Yep, those instructions are posted on the Facebook page. If you didn't catch it on what I said on YouTube. So, all right. Agenda item number 4, Citizens Forum. Do we have any citizens who have called in? All right, hearing none. We will move on to departmental reports. You should have in front of you, obviously the sheriff is not here due to the crisis that we have right now, but you should have every other report as well. So if we start with the department report, the fire department report, looks like Tony had some few things. Nothing too big. New radios will be in on either the 6th or 7th.
They came in today.
Oh, Deb said they came in today. So the new radios will be switched on April 16th. And then Raycom, I think, is going to be coming around to replace the truck and base radios. I know earlier this week, or later last week, they were in Nevada, so we should be pretty close to having them come here. And it sounds like they're also doing birthday drive-bys for kids who are having any birthdays during this crisis. So
Yes, I'd like to add a little something to that.
absolutely.
So, with that said, they do have permission from the city to go ahead and do all this. I'd like to maybe do it through the end of the month of April, then we can see where we're at with this COVID-19 pandemic thing going on. Also, I'm going to ask Tony to, if they're not taking their turnout gear right now, to please start doing so. Take your turnout gear with you so that if you are out of town for a couple miles, you can at least have your gear with you and can go right to the fire from there.
Perfect. We'll make sure we get that message relayed.
Thank you.
Any other things for the fire department report?
I just want to commend Ken and the fire department for doing this. I think it's a great idea. My understanding is that Ken, as the emergency services chair, authorized not only authorized it, but also participated by driving one of the vehicles. So it's a great idea. Thank you, Ken.
And I know the kids are excited about it too. They get a kick out of them coming to see him. So, anything else? All right, we will move on to the EMS report. Looks like there's only one call this past month that we responded to. No incidents, no maintenance needed. The only comment they had is just to wash your hands as community members. So
So I'd also like to add to this, make sure that if there are any new protocols that come down from anywhere that these guys follow, as far as masking or anything else when we respond to calls and treating everybody as if they have COVID-19 instead of maybe going in without a mask or something. I don't know what the protocols are at this point, but if the new ones came down, I'm sure we're following them, and that'd be just looking out for the safety of the personnel.
For sure. Emergency management right now is or has said that dispatchers are now trained to ask for COVID-19 symptoms, and if they do, they're going in with full PPE. However, I would like to reiterate with you, Ken, and say that I feel like if our supply is big enough to go on all calls with full PPE. I don't know how you feel about that. We can have that discussion now if you'd like.
I think if we could at least mask up, I mean, mask, gloves, possibly a face shield of some sort, something to protect that. I don't know what their full PPE, requires them. I don't know what they're using for full PPE, but I think if we had at least a face shield with a mask of some sort, that would be sufficient.
Okay. We will make sure we relay that message as well. Anything else for the EMS department? Okay. We will move on to the library report. You have that in front of you. Looks like total books checked out for March was 272, movies 255, attendance was 376. Keep in mind the library has been closed for the majority of March, or that the majority of the back half of March. So we might see a big decrease in these numbers come April. So employees, it looks like they're still working independently, whether they're coming in to do re-inventorying things or disinfecting. So that's what they got there. Anybody have anything for library?
I noticed that they are also holding their meetings electronically in the their notice of meeting that was posted on Facebook. They suggested that anybody who wishes to participate was to call into the library number, and they would then give them the conference information so they could join. I'm not sure that meets the requirement of a public meeting because you're calling in to get permission to join as opposed to having the right to join. So I've asked Deb to take a look at that, and if that is fine, great. If it isn't, then we need to know what the minimum requirements for a public meeting are.
It also sounds like they are going to discuss curbside pickup to try to meet with this COVID-19. I would just ask them if they have any masks on stock, that if they do curbside pickup to please wear masks. The board said no. Okay. Never mind. The board has spoken. They have said no. So.
I just talked to Crystal today.
Perfect. Anything else for library? Okay. Next up is Public Works. Looks like they're going to start filling potholes shortly. They have repaired a storm tile along Woodlawn that was hit by Windstream, and it sounds like Windstream will be picking up the bill for that. Replaced both storm intakes along the second north of the city park. And it looks like Tony's actually going to wait till May 1st to open up restrooms. So those will be closed. I know I saw today that the parks will be closed, and that includes playground equipment. What that means is that is can be a misdemeanor offense if you get caught by the police. So.
And its purpose is to make sure that we have the police authority to enforce the governor's mandate of social distancing, which I think right now is 10 people, no more than 10 people, and staying 6 feet apart unless you are a nuclear family.
Anything else for Public Works?
Yes, I'd like a report from Tony on the water main shutoff replacement project, and also a report on storm sewer cleaning. We budgeted $22,000 for storm sewer cleaning this year. I want to make sure that before we get to June 30th, we get projects done.
I can tell you they're starting on the water main valves down here.
Okay.
They're gonna
They
replace 3 of
started
them.
flushing hydrants today and tomorrow, or is that May? What's the fixing stuff?
Today and tomorrow.
Yeah,
Tomorrow.
they flushed them today.
Perfect.
Will we be doing yard waste pickup in April? Deb's nodding her head yes.
They started last week.
Okay, because I've had questions from citizens whether or not they'll be doing it in April. So it would probably be a good idea to put it on the city sign. And maybe the Facebook page.
All right. City clerk report. That is in front of you as well. Budget's been filed. Woohoo.
Yay!
Actually, that is a big deal.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time on it.
Newsletter went out with the water bill. I'm sure you've all seen that. With that, there have been a lot of complaints about people not realizing that they need to tag their dogs. So if you guys have any suggestions on a better way to get the word out for that, please let us and Deb know, and we'll figure out a better way to do that. So,
Do we have a posting on Facebook that encourages people to share the information with their neighbors?
we absolutely can. I would just like to commend Deb and Dee both for, hunkering down throughout this whole time. For those of you that don't know, earlier last week, I told them that because we do not have significant social distancing in our small office, that we are going to only have one person in this building at a time working. So Dee is working in the mornings, some of the mornings, and then Deb is working here the rest of the day. So they're doing the best they can, and the predicament we're in. So thank you guys for being flexible in that capacity.
Is Deb still having a hard time with people trying to get their permits for their golf carts and etc.?
Yeah, it's been a learning curve.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was just wondering with the city website, if there's any way we could put a PDF forms out there.
There is.
So that they
It is out there.
those off.
Yep, it's out there.
We have them already.
Yep. So
Perfect.
I think really the thing that we can do is if they call in, they can always do that and then drop the cash off with the permit in the Dropbox. So
If somebody were to call in and ask that a form be mailed to them, would we do that? Okay.
Yep.
Deb is nodding her head yes. Pretend like you're in court. Everything needs a audible response.
Whatever works for us.
anything else on the city clerk report?
I noticed that Deb has a warning that the local option sales taxes and road use taxes are going to be a little bit lighter in the future due to the COVID-19. Not as much gas sales, not as much retail sales. In the treasurer's report that she included, the road use tax amount right now is $104,000 of cash in the bank, and local option sales tax is $381,000. So it's, yes, we will have to be careful in next year's budget. This year's budget, we're almost through, and we should stay on course with it, but we will probably need to review next year's.
Yep.
But we do have good cash balances.
All right. Anything else for the city clerk report? All right, moving on to item 6. This is a public hearing, the second reading for an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances. This is for the zoning regulations for the official zoning map from RE Estate Residential District to RS Suburban Residential. Is there a motion to open this up to a public hearing?
So moved.
Motioned by Steve. Second by Megan. Okay, Steve,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Ken,
Yeah.
Doug.
Yep.
Okay, we are now open to a public hearing. Are there anybody on the line that wants to discuss item 6A, the second reading for zoning regulations? Hearing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So
I'll make
moved.
a motion to close it.
I second.
Okay, moved by Ken, second by Steve. Ken,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Megan,
Yep.
Doug,
Yep.
Steve.
Yes.
It is now closed.
I move ordinance 313 for the second reading, and further move that we waive the third reading.
Moved by Steve.
I'll second it, Doug.
Second by Doug. We will now take a vote. Alex.
No, it's for discussion.
Up for discussion, sorry.
not a big fan of all this, big lots up there. Now with the new school bond being voted in, that just shows that I think we still need to look for smaller, lots, more affordable housing. So, my vote's probably still gonna be no.
Any other discussion on that?
Well, I understand Ken's concern in the last 3 years where we've been working at trying to move a development forward in this area. We have had some smaller lot proposals, but we have not had a developer interested in actually developing it with smaller lots. So this is the person who has come forward and indicated a willingness to develop, and as such, I will be supporting the rezoning.
I think we also got to remember is that this is only half of the whole entire lot. I know before I came on here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there was also another zoning map that was approved for the backside. Is that correct?
Oh, the south, no, it was just a rezoning to a higher density. There's been no plat
Okay.
approved on it.
No plat approved on it. But it's something that should be considered as well, that, you know, there's, if you're wanting a more dense place, that has been out there on the table as well. So any other comments?
I think we're ready for a vote.
Okay.
And to recap, this is to approve the second reading and waive the third.
We will go ahead and vote. We'll start with Alex.
Yes.
Megan.
Yes.
Ken.
No.
Doug.
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
All right. And it looks like that passes. Moving on to item 7A. This is a resolution to approve Rock Creek Ridge Estates Plat 2. This was in your packet as well. And I believe the map is in there too.
Yes, we have the zoning commission minutes, the map, and Snyder and Associates review at the request of the city council. And the resolution has 3 points to it in the now therefore be it resolved. One of the points is that the developer provide 2 copies of the soil percolation tests according to the county specification prior to approval of final plat. That was a recommendation by the zoning commission to the city council. Second point is that the developer provide no, sorry about that. That the city waived the requirement of a 66-foot right-of-way, subject to the developer providing a 3-foot public sidewalk easement adjacent to the right-of-way in the front of each lot on both sides of the road and inside the 10-foot public utility easement. This would be consistent with what was done in Rock Creek Ridge Estates Plat 1. And number 3, the developer corrects the item specified in the engineer's review and in this resolution, and provide 4 corrected copies of the preliminary plat to the city at a scale of 1 inch to 50 feet prior to submitting a final plat. I move the resolution.
Moved by Steve.
I'll second.
Second by Doug. Discussion?
So this letter we got from Steiner.
Yep.
Are we allowing those flag lots to share a driveway? Is that what that's about?
As in item 8B in that letter?
8, yeah, 8, 8.
Yes. So they would be sharing a driveway and they would have joint maintenance responsibility for that driveway.
And that it would have a culvert under it that allowed water to flow, and that it be properly sized.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, I think we're ready for a vote. We will start with Alex. Alex?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Steve?
Yes.
Ken?
Yeah.
Megan?
Yes.
And Doug?
Yes.
Unanimous vote. Item 7A passed. Moving on to item 7B. We have a approval of 2020 insurance renewal and decision for options, on options. Okay. So in front of you, you have the options listed out for you. This is for the city insurance. What
We have budgeted next year $35,700. The base renewals $33,258. It is important to make sure we keep the buildings insured at their value. Otherwise, we end up with problems in the future. So the premium increase of $259, I certainly support. I'll come back to the violent event coverage. There's a pollution exclusion exemption for water and wastewater plants. We have one. I agree with their recommendation that we should be at $250,000 and $1 million aggregate. If there was a problem, the city would be on the hook for more than $50,000. So I would certainly support the increase amount of $100. The loss of salary, I think Deb's going to have to explain that one to me. Data compromise, having $100,000 insurance, it would cost at least that if we were to have a cyber attack and lose all of our files. So $402 I would certainly be in favor of. And replacement costs for the first responder vehicle, adding $83, I certainly am in favor of. That just leaves municipal violent event response coverage and loss of salary or fringe benefit coverage. And were either one of those explained to you, Deb?
No,
Okay.
Who knows something about insurance?
Bueller?
I know if you probably don't have it, you're probably gonna get run over the rail, so.
I don't think we need a whole lot of municipal violent event response coverage because, and so maybe the $40 for $100,000 coverage would be appropriate. And the loss of salary or fringe benefit coverage, I have absolutely no idea what that is.
Does this have to be renewed in April?
yes.
Yes.
Well, apparently we don't have the loss of salary or fringe benefit coverage. I say let's not have it another year until we find out what it is.
Well, she said that we could either go with 1 and 2. What if she recommends at least 1 and 2. The options. The
But-
others we can add on later.
Okay, response coverage form that covers a variety of response expenses as a result from a violent event. If the response expenses are incurred and reported within a year, view the policyholder concern agent. So is this that we need to
Like a riot coverage?
pay somebody to come in here and help take care of a riot, or
Or
Well-
damages from a riot?
Yeah,
No.
that's why I wouldn't do more than 100,000. Maybe we don't need it at all.
Can we always add this? Do we have to know this now, or if we figure out what it
Next
is
year.
next month, can we add it to it next month?
Yes.
So it can always be added whenever. Okay, so we could go with option 1 and option 2, and then the other optional covered.
And then I would also say the limited pollution exclusion and the data compromise and the replacement cost for the first responder vehicle additions
Okay.
are appropriate. That adds $585. And so we're at $34,102, which is still less than our $35,700.
So to recap, Steve was looking at option 1, option 2, and then underneath optional coverages, the limited pollution exclusion, data compromise, and replacement costs for first responders vehicle. And that, the total of that would have been 34,102 when in our budget we're at 35,700. Any more discussion on that?
I move that those options be approved.
Moved by Steve,
Second by Ken.
second by Ken. Alex?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Motion passed. All right. Item 7C, discussion on truck replacement. For those that don't remember, the truck was backed into. We decided at one of our meetings that we would keep the truck and take the insurance money for that as well. So it looks like Tony has a couple quotes for us to look through. And by a couple, I mean a lot of quotes to look through.
I think he only has really two quotes for the truck, and then the rest of it is
Okay.
for the blade and all that other stuff too. Because the one truck, I believe the Chevy truck, they didn't add that in, or the Dodge dealership did.
Added what in? Sorry.
So the Dodge dealership, Deary,
Yep.
Vane,
Yep.
that's the truck, the dump body, and the snowplow all together
Okay.
as one quote.
Okay.
Where the other one, Carl Chevrolet, is just the truck. And then the next one is, looks like blade from Truck Equipment. And then I think he has another one from Hawkeye for the body, yeah, for the dump bed.
Ken, you're right, but the Truck Equipment and the Hawkeye are the truck body and the plow, plus all the lights and a toolbox.
Okay.
The one from Deary does not have the lights or the toolbox included in it. So you would have to go with a body and then one of the other two. And then Deary has its own. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It looked to me like we have three options in front of us. One is Deary, and the other two options both use Carl Chevrolet truck chassis, and one of them is putting on a dump and a plow, which is the Truck Equipment Incorporated, and they say that's going to be $20,352. And the other one is from Hawkeye Truck Equipment, which is also bidding only the dump and the plow. So we would take the Carl Chevrolet vehicle over to one of those two and have them do it. You add things up, and Deary is $54,101.70. And the Carl Chevrolet with Truck Equipment Incorporated is $49,678.24. And the Carl Chevrolet with Hawkeye Truck Equipment is $49,765.94, about $90 more. So the low bid would be Carl Chevrolet with
Hawkeye.
Truck Equipment Inc.
Discussion on that?
If I read all this correctly,
The email that Deb sent out earlier today about the page that was missing, is that just the snowplow bid?
Yeah, the snowplow bid from Truck Equipment Inc.
One thing,
I feel like $20,000 for a snowplow.
Well, no, it's both the plow and the dump.
Okay.
No, that's page 2 of 2, Alex.
Okay.
I forgot that second page of the report.
Okay, I got it now.
however, I'm looking at the truck equipment quote that they gave us. And I'm not too vehicle inclined, but the make model of the truck equipment quote was a Ford F350/F550. And if we're buying from Carl, I'm going to guess it's a Chevy Silverado.
No, probably not. I think Tony's looking for a 1-ton truck, which would be your 350.
So the quote from Carl Chevrolet was a 2020 Silverado 1-ton 3,500 heavy duty. But the quote from Hawkeye Truck Equipment had them putting the blade and dump on a Ford F550. I'm assuming the prices are going to be different.
Well, and the problem with that is we don't have a bid for that vehicle.
Yep.
Other than Deere is using that vehicle, but they have that vehicle, the dump and the plow as all one thing. And I don't know if they would offer the same $11,000 of refund or write down
Right.
on the truck if we didn't get the dump and the plow at the same place. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't, but if they don't, if that is the vehicle that we have to put the dump and the plow on, then the Hawkeye Truck Equipment and the Deere bids are identically the same at $54,000, and Carl Chevrolet is still the low bid.
But I guess when
Looking at the Hawkeye Truck Equipment, looks like the very last page.
Yep.
There's a note in there. It says notes to be installed on the customer's 2020 Chevy 3500.
Okay.
Okay,
So it's a dump body with a 9-foot 2-inch blade. That's a 9-foot 2-inch blade, where the blade from Erie is an 11-foot. No, I'll take that back. 11-foot rugby dump body. Okay.
That's the bed, right?
Probably the same blade.
So if it's in the quote, then they would have to abide by that, I would assume. And so it couldn't be any more, it'd have to be the same or less.
well, the low bid is Carl Chevrolet with Truck Equipment Inc.
I would
What
agree.
my concern is that we're sitting around the table trying to figure this out. And what I believe should have happened is that Tony should have provided a copy of the bid specs, should have reviewed them to make sure that the respondents complied with the specs, should have put together a tab sheet that showed that there are 3 different proposals and exactly what those proposals are. And that should have been part of the packet instead of the raw bids.
So do we want to push this out for another month then?
I think that we understand it. It's just we had to waste a lot of time on it. And the agenda item says discuss truck replacement. It does not say that we will approve a truck replacement. So we have 3 bids. I would recommend that Tony talk to Carl Chevrolet and Truck Equipment to ensure that what he wants is what he's getting, and we bring back to the council at the next meeting an item where we would approve the low bid of what appears to be the low bid of Carl Chevrolet with Truck Equipment Incorporated.
I agree. I don't think we can take any action tonight, and I do think we need to get some confirmation that all this is going to mesh together. Are these government bids? I know this is discount for government entities. Have we checked on that aspect?
Carl's is, they have the government and Carl discount that they put in there. I couldn't tell you on Deary.
Yeah. I went and got the Deary bid. I told him it would be for commercial or for a government bid. As you can see on there, it says $44,990 for the truck with a discount of $11,328. That's the discount for the government.
Okay.
That's what I wondered. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So is everybody in agreement that Tony needs to go to Carl's and get his itemized specs to make sure everything's kosher, and then we can add that approval to the next meeting?
I think he has everything there. I think what you're just asking for is him to get this a little bit more organized and present it to us as a packet so we can look at it. It looks like everything is written out according to those other deals, so.
Okay. All right, then we will take action on this at our next meeting.
Shelby.
And I think, Shelby, did you just tune in? Shelby? All right, I must be hearing things. Oh, Shelby?
Yeah, it's Shelby.
Do you have anything for us for EMS? We looked up.
Okay. I think you should have my report in there, right?
Yep, we got it, and we went over that too. So, okay, cool.
All right. Yep, we had total 2 calls. The one we did not show up to was the car versus semi accident. I believe Cambridge and Story County Medical were showed up to that, and along with the fire department.
Okay.
We just had no one in town. It was in the middle of the day. Other than that, we only had 2 calls. The other call was in the trailer court, and that is all I have.
All right, sounds good. We told everybody to wash their hands too, so you're good to go.
Yep.
Thanks.
Just wash your hands. Keep that 6 feet on distance. Yeah, go ahead. One question. You probably don't have enough equipment, masks, and stuff to at least mask up for all calls. Is that true? So we do have face masks for ourselves. Myself and I believe Nancy Pritchard, we both, I believe, have respirators. So I have a P100 respirator that I wear for my job at Marshalltown. It stays with me at all times. So if I'm on a call here, I have that. It's better than the N95. It's actually P100, so it blocks out like 99.8% of any particulate coming through. So I do have that. Nancy was looking at getting one. I believe she got one. But we do have regular like just face masks. I have a box of 50 that I put in the truck. They got donated to me. And we also have, I believe, 2 boxes of N95.
I think so.
Which I believe they only have like 20 or so in a box. So is there anything that Corey can disaster, whoever it is up there, can get you anything, or is everything going to the hospitals or what? Everything pretty much is going to the hospitals. If we do need stuff, we do have the ability to get it from them. At this point, we don't, I mean, luckily we don't have that need as of yet. We have a fairly good stock of what we need. We've got some on gloves ordered. We have plenty of larges, extra larges. We don't really use small, but we do use a lot of mediums. We were down to 3 boxes. Nancy was able to get another 3 boxes ordered, so they were available. But in terms of actual PPE for ourselves, we're pretty set for now, unless something truly, I mean, something blows up here in town.
And Shelby, I know we were discussing earlier. I know Story County Dispatch is asking about COVID questions. Do you think you have enough PPE that if we asked you guys to wear masks to every call, would that be too much to ask?
That's actually, so that's what we do for every single call for Unity Point in Marshalltown, and that's what we're doing every single call here in Maxwell. So if I show up on scene, it's actually passed down from the CDC and the state guidelines and our medical examiners that we have to have a mask on if we're going to have any type of patient contact.
Okay, perfect.
Shelby, we don't have enough masks for each responder to do that.
Okay, I will get some more then, because I do have more masks here.
We have enough for a responder to make contact and do that, but if we have several responders respond, they have to stay back.
Okay.
So with that, the masks are good until soiled.
Correct. So we can use our masks.
Yes. That's the thing. You just like for myself at work, I have my regular like face mask, just a droplet mask that I wear when I'm in the ER. And I don't have. We know it's not a positive COVID. It's just a regular person. We just wear a droplet mask. We actually have those labels. So each responder can have one of those, and those are good pretty much until you get something on that, which there should only be one person touching the patient anyways.
Correct.
If you went in with a face shield, talking like like if you were grinding or whatever, you went in with a clear face shield and a mask, I know that the hospitals usually knows and correct that is saving their mask from being pretty much soiled. Yeah. And then really, what the hospital does, well, any patient that comes in, they're throwing a mask on that patient, a droplet mask. Right. So that step is preventing any transmission of fluid from the patient to the provider. Right. So do you have face masks in the ambulances or not?
We have, guys, when all this came down from the CDC, I went out and got a jump on ordering supplies, and Shelby got us some masks. So we've got the droplet mask to put on the patient. Any respiratory symptoms, a mask immediately goes on the patient. Whatever responder is making contact with that patient will have an N95 mask. We also have disposable coveralls, foot coverings, and goggles. So that if we have several responders there, we're going to keep most of them back, but 1 or 2 that are doing patient care will be fully covered.
Okay.
So my question was, you don't have a face shield which would cover that mask that you are wearing that might help keep that clean.
No, by the time we went hunting, the shields were gone. We have goggles, but we don't have a shield.
Okay.
You can
I can do for you.
That would be awesome.
All right.
See? Huh? Who's talking? You can special order them from Tyson. Is this Alex?
Yeah.
Why didn't you do that, Alex? I can call them tomorrow and do it for you. That would be awesome. Go ahead and order. Shelby, how many do you want?
I mean, the nice thing about the face shields is they're completely reusable. So you just wipe them down with our standing wipes and keep them in the rig. So, I mean, we could probably just get one for each actual person that's doing patient care. Because if you're not doing patient care, you should be staying away 6 to 8 feet, and you have no reason to get that mask soiled. All right, so like get 4 of them then. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you, Shelby.
Thank you. Yep, not a problem. Anything else for me?
I don't believe so.
All righty, have a good night, guys. Stay
Thanks,
safe.
you
and
too.
We'll talk to you later.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Yep, bye.
All right, so we're going to move on to item 7D, approval for updated appraisal and review of appraisal for wastewater treatment plant drive acquisition. So you have in your packet an email from Wes. Wes, myself, and Doug had a meeting with the property owner. We decided that, and I think we all had this thought before going in, but it would be more beneficial to have the driveway go right down the middle of that property, so you're not making an L-shaped drive. And in order to do that, we will need an updated appraisal for that amount. The owner is all for that. He wants to help the city out that way as well. So what this is, like I said, is just an updated appraisal that we needed council approval for.
I noticed also on the item in our packet that there'd be an option that we could have our engineer provide a informal hand sketch that would show an optimum layout for the road, assuming it's getting developed into R1 density, which is about half-acre lots. And so I would certainly support. I move that we go ahead with the update of the appraisal, and that we have the engineer provide a hand sketch showing an optimum layout for the drive.
Yep. So for those of you that didn't hear that, this is a motion for item 7D and E. So that was a motion by Steve.
I second.
Okay. What about 7E?
7E.
This is that sketch, that concept design as well, that goes hand in hand with that.
Yeah, I turned 2 pages on my packet, so I got them both together. I'm sorry. We can separate them if you want.
No, I will second 7E2.
Okay, so motion by Steve to approve 7D and E, seconded by Ken. Let's go with discussion. Hearing none, we'll move on to roll call. So Megan?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Ken?
Yeah.
Item 7D and E pass.
And I will only turn 1 page at a time from now on.
7F.
We can skip 7F because they ended up canceling that due to the COVID-19.
Okay, 7F has been canceled.
I would like to state on that, though, that I think it's a great idea what they wanted to do, and I would certainly be in favor, should it ever happen in the future, of having the participants throw the trash up on the bank, and we would go and pick it up and haul it away at no cost.
Cool.
Sounds good. I will let him know if they're able to do that this year, depending on how everything goes.
All right. Item 7G, discussion and action requested changes to the code of ordinances. In front of you, you have the,
And this is not an ordinance change for tonight. This is just to get information from the council so that we can publish for public hearing. And I believe Doug had a concern about the sign at under section 1 and 2.
Yes, I was questioning whether we need any kind of signing to that.
If we strike section 2, then what that does is it removes a sign at Second and Woodlawn and does not replace it with anything. So I have no objection to just striking section 2 and then renumbering everything else.
It would be First and Woodlawn.
Yeah, I'm sorry, First and Woodlawn.
any more discussion on that?
Do we want to move forward with these code changes?
Is there a
Sounds good.
okay, motion by Ken,
I'll second, Alex.
second by Alex, discussion. Hearing none, Megan,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Doug.
Yep.
Ken,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes, this will be on for public hearing next month.
All right, 7H, discussion on proposals for City Hall furnace replacement. All right, so we have two proposals that were sent to us, one from Custom Comfort, the other one from Styles Mechanical Services. It looks like,
I don't know if we have apples and apples or if we have apples and oranges. We have Zach saying he's going to replace the furnace. He's going to repair and replace the ducts in City Hall, including connecting up the ducts that are not connected and doing that, and recommending that we zone the library different from City Hall so that we only heat and cool what we need. And what we have from Custom Comfort is a furnace, connecting the furnace up to the existing ductwork, which doesn't connect it up to the ductwork that's not connected, and no zoning. So one bid is $46,000 or $4,650, Zach's, if you just do estimate 1 and 2, is $3,850. So Zach would be the low bidder, unless we want to also add zoning so that we aren't heating and cooling the library when nobody's there.
If you look at Custom Comfort, he's got 4, it looks like he's got 4 furnaces in there. He's very pricey.
You want to state that again, Ken? I think you got cut off a little bit.
I think we got somebody listening to YouTube, and we need, if you have, please turn it down on YouTube. Listen to your phone. So I said, it looks to me like Custom Comfort has 4 different furnaces there. Is that correct?
Yes,
So he has one as cheap as $3,100.
this is also why we kind of have an apples and an orange.
Correct.
What do we want?
Well, I like the idea that if there's incorrect and we can make things, improper sizing of duct is a big deal. So, if that's the case, maybe we need to even have Custom Comfort look into that too. What we need to do, I think, is look at this and say, out of all these, what would we want? And then go back to them and say, here's what we need. Give me the price for this.
I think we need a new proposal from Custom Comfort that compares the exact same thing that Zach has here as well. I think the zone system, we would probably end up saving money in the long run because we wouldn't be heating and cooling a place that we're not in. So,
And do we want, a two-stage is really the way to go. I would not do a single stage. And so I have no idea what the difference between the furnace that he has with all the detail versus the furnace with ECM blower, other than the fact that it's $700 difference. So we should ask Custom Comfort to give us his best proposal that does the replacement of the furnace, the repairing and replacing the duct work in City Hall, which includes connecting up the registers that are not currently connected, and adding and zoning the library and City Hall separately.
I would think the opinion on the floor is that we need to send this proposal back to Custom Comfort to get a more itemized and some things added on it as well.
Scott Oaks.
Scott Oaks just joined. Good evening, Scott.
I'm going to back up a little bit, Scott, for you real quick.
Okay.
So the resolution approving the Rock Creek Ridge Estates Plat 2. This is the preliminary plat. We went ahead and
First the rezoning was approved.
first the rezoning was approved, and then
Waive the third reading.
and we're waiving the third reading. And then the resolution approving Rock Creek Ridge Estates Plat 2, the preliminary plat passed as well for you.
But it did have some corrections that needed to be made, and those will be passed on to you.
Okay. All right. And then will there be one more reading?
No,
Nope, we went ahead and waived the third.
the rezoning is final, and the preliminary plat is approved with some changes that are necessary, and your engineer will have to make those changes and submit them, 4 copies to the city, before they submit the final plat, or with the final plat, doesn't make any difference.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, that sounds good. I appreciate all your work.
Thank you, Scott. All right, so back to item H. Are we in agreement that we need to send that back to Custom Comfort?
Yes,
Okay. We won't take any action on that tonight. We will move on to item 7I, the discussion on dog nuisances. You have in front of you the ordinances for dogs or pets in city limits, and the licensure that is required for having a dog in city limits. We have several complaints about dog waste, and the ordinance states that if your dog has a bowel movement on someone else's property, it needs picked up as well as on city property. So how about we open that up for discussion? Any discussion?
I don't want to discuss it.
the complaints that we've received is they want the city to enforce the poop scooping. And what I've said is if there's a complaint, whether it's in the right of way or whether it's on private property, make sure that you complain, you get a time and a date, you get a picture of the dog and the owner so they can be identified, and be ready to go to court if and testify if it gets that far. And people need to know that that's what the process is if the city's going to enforce.
And I think this also touches on the dog licensure that we have put in place as well. That's going to be something that we throw out on Facebook. Seems how there seems to be a lot of confusion on that. So we'll make sure that everyone is aware. And I think when I do that, I'll also put in something about the prohibited acts of pet waste as well. Any more discussion? Perfect. Moving on to item 7J, discussion and action on resolution waiving utility bill late fees. So we have in front of us a resolution for non-payment of service bills. I think what this is doing, it is waiving the late payment. It is not waiving the actual payment itself. So if they're not paying during this time because of COVID, there's some points in this to help them out with that. So I will open this up for any discussion.
This is Doug. I have delinquent bills already on the book this would not affect this, in my opinion.
Correct. This would go in place if we were to take action on this today. This would go in place, I would think, starting today. Steve, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the resolution, the way it's written, says that we will not put penalties on from here on. It says that we will not disconnect a service for non-payment from here on, and that we will not seek liens on property for non-payment from here on. So if somebody has an overdue bill at this time, or from last month, prior to March 15th, then they had a penalty, and they should have gotten a disconnect notice April 1st or thereabouts. And we should be in the process of disconnecting those already. If we haven't, if we're not, then once we pass this resolution, we would not disconnect them, and we would not seek liens until the council acts again.
Any other discussion?
Any idea, Deb, how many we have unpaid from March?
5 of them,
5.
Normal suspects, or
normal suspects.
5 normal suspects from March.
and we sent them out a notice of disconnect.
We did that on the 15th. We also called them on the day we would have disconnected them, and they still haven't come down and paid.
So do we need to say, put in here commencing with the April bill for services, that we're gonna do this?
I would say yes.
And so we would put in the words commencing with the April bill for services on the first 3 be it resolved. And leave the last be it further resolved the way it is. Does that make sense?
I think so. Any other discussion or comments for Steve? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I'll motion.
Motion by Megan,
I'll second.
second by Doug. Alex,
Yeah.
Steve,
Yes.
Ken,
Yeah,
Megan,
Yes.
Doug.
Yes.
Resolution passed. Item 7K, discussion and action on bond council engagement letter with Eilers and Cooney. We have in front of us the actual letter itself. Give you guys a chance to read through it a little bit.
This is just an engagement letter to get them on board so that we can get the loan for money that we've already spent on the planning and design. And so my feeling is if we don't approve this, then we're going to we will have spent the money and we won't have a way of recovering it until we do sign it. The engagement letter appears to be pretty standard, and I would recommend that the council, that the mayor is authorized to sign the engagement letter.
I would second that motion.
Okay, we'll take that as a motion, Steve.
Yeah, I think I made it a motion, didn't I?
Okay,
No, you recommended.
okay,
Recommend.
Okay, I move.
okay. Moved by Steve, second by Doug. Megan,
Yes.
Ken,
Yeah,
Alex,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes, no
Steve.
choice.
Steve,
Yes.
motion passed.
Did I hear some reluctance on this?
Minimal.
All right, moving on to item 7L. Resolution fixing date for a meeting on the proposition to authorize a loan and disbursement agreement and the issuance of notes to evidence the obligations of the city.
Before we can borrow money, we have to have a public hearing telling the public that we're borrowing the money. This is a continuation. We've now engaged the bond counsel. They've put together this resolution so that we can hold the public hearing so that we can then incur the debt. So I move the resolution setting a public hearing for 6:30 on the 4th day of May, 2020. I think that's it.
Okay,
Anything else we need, Deb?
No.
that
That's
is
the only blank in there, I think.
moved by Steve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alex. Steve,
Yes,
Alex,
he didn't ask for.
Ken. Oh, discussion, sorry.
yeah,
Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll go back to roll call. Steve,
Yes,
Alex,
Yes.
Doug.
Yep.
Ken,
yeah,
Megan.
Yeah.
Resolution is passed. Seven N, adoption of an ordinance restricting campers located on private property.
I asked that this be put on the agenda as a carryover item from complaints we had received last summer and the year before that about people parking their campers and whatnot in their front yard, and in some cases, people occupying campers for extended periods of time. What you have in front of you are 3 ordinances from 3 different communities that regulate campers. The one from Malvern, Iowa, in my opinion, comes closest to what we would want. It doesn't, it may need a little bit of touching up, but basically it says you can't live in them and you can't have them, in your front yard except, unless it's on the driveway. And then for up to 2 days while you load and unload. And you can live in them for up to a certain number of days in the year, but no longer than that. And that if you're placing it in your side yard or backyard, it's got to be a certain distance from the property lines.
Can the city request that they obtain a permit if they are planning on living in the camper for however many days a year?
Oh, so that there's prior notice?
Yeah, otherwise, how are we gonna know as a city if people are living in there for over the extended period of time or number of days?
Right.
I think we could have that in there.
So you're wanting like a permit to reside in your camper for,
Or at least a notice to
Yeah,
the,
I mean, I don't think we need to charge by just, as the city, I think it'd be nice to know if they're planning on doing that. That way, if we get complaints, we can say, well, they, let us know.
how long is too long?
this, or, yeah, the different ordinances have different time
The way
frames.
you're gonna run into with that though is like, so let's say somebody's remodeling their house, it's gonna take up to 4 months, and they're living in their camper in their yard. Versus somebody has a relative from out of town that comes for maybe 2 weeks this summer and is gonna stay in their camper in her parking lot while while they're here visiting.
Right. So,
If you ask for if you ask for a permit, I think then you're gonna be crossing bounds as far as what is allowable and what's not.
we have in the past, have we kicked out someone from when they were building their house and living in a camper, that they could not do that?
Not while they're building a house.
I think there's a provision in the code that says while you're building your house, you can live in the camper, because that way you're keeping track of the work site. So I'd have to check on that.
So this item, if we, the motion would be to have further
Well-
discussion on this, or do we need a motion?
I would like the council to read all three of them, identify the things that they want to have, and then we can put together something that works for us. I know the one from Wahpeton, allows 14 days, no longer than 7 consecutive and 14 days over the summer. Yeah, maybe that's just fine. Looking at the, trying to find the Melbourne one,
21 days now.
21 for Melbourne. And Ida Grove, they have a lot of nice things in it, but it's really hard to follow. They talk about the screening, they talk about it being prohibited from being parked in the city right of way, which, we've had to finagle that one. And so that would be nice to have in there someplace. Uh,
I would also kind of like to see like minimum of how far back they have to be from the road.
yeah, Wapaton, or not Wapaton, but Ida Grove has it at least 25 feet. So, distance from road and 25 feet might be just fine. That would mean the person who lives in Milt Moore's old house would have to move theirs because it sits in a driveway on Maxwell Street, and he just kind of backs it up, even up to his house, and it extends out to the right of way. But McVeigh's would be just fine because they have theirs back as far as their house is back. And you know, just drive around town, look at things, and come up with a list of what we want to regulate, and we'll you can send me emails of the things that you want to have in it, and I will draft it up and have it at the next meeting.
You can drive by my house, look at mine, see if you don't like it.
Well, would you not comply with one of these?
I don't. I think I would comply with all those. We have a camper pad that we put in, so it's on the side of the house. I don't.
After I got the agenda, I drove around town, and I really don't have a problem with anybody in
Okay.
city limits. I mean, I took note of every camper in town, and I don't see a problem with anybody.
Well, I think we could probably come up with an ordinance. So
So what you're saying, Megan, is that just living in it and just being back from the road?
Right. I guess the living in it part, I mean, there's too many gray areas. I think that, I don't know, I just think that it's gonna be very difficult to regulate. So we have somebody that needs to remodel their house versus somebody that's just staying for the summer. You're gonna have different, amounts of time that they're gonna be meeting in it. Another thing that was brought up was maybe that in this situation we're in now, with an emergency type pandemic, people might use them as far as isolation from their family.
and I think in an instance like we're now, I think that there could be I don't know if you would call it an emergency proclamation, stating that would be fine. Especially if they're using it for an isolation area.
Right.
I think we just need to have something in writing, in case it becomes a nuisance issue.
We've had complaints in the past and have not been able to effectively resolve those complaints. And if the council doesn't want to do anything in this area, fine. We say we're not going to do anything, and we move on, and we tell our constituents that it's just fine to do whatever you want.
Please notice most of these also cover things like boats, campers, trailers, RVs, as well as campers. But there are more than just a camper listed on a lot of these as well.
Yes,
Sure.
we have some trailers that are parked in the street right of way. These would not allow that. If you're going to have a trailer, you park it on your own property.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do this. Let's read over these three ordinances that we've got. If you want to do some more research on your own, I think that would be great too. And then come back in our May meeting and come up with some ideas. And if it is the council's opinion that we don't need to touch it, then we just move on. But I think we need to look at it so we have something that's black and white instead of having gray area that can be misleading in our ordinances.
I agree.
All right, so we'll move that to me. Moving on, we are talking about item 8A, the COVID-19 Community Preparedness Plan. Earlier or later last month, Ken, myself, and Steve were trying to figure out what we need to do as a community to cope with this pandemic. I gotta find my notes here. If one of you guys want to talk while I try to find my notes about this. No.
Nobody wants to talk.
That's all right.
Yeah, if you're gonna remember that.
Yeah, that's right. I got it here. So just to recap, right now, I labeled this our war room discussion. So recap, the city hall is closed to the public so that nobody's coming in. And as I discussed before, we are having only one staff member in the office at a time. And if you guys are watching YouTube right now, we're making sure that we're at least 6 feet away. You guys know that the workstations are not anywhere close being 6 feet apart. So that was how I came about the decision earlier last week to make that. So only one person was in the office at a time. You all know that we're on YouTube now and having teleconferences to stop or prevent the spread of this. But if you guys have any ideas as to what else the city needs to do, we would be glad to take that as well. Is there any discussion? Does anybody want to speak any more about that? Or am I beating a dead horse?
Well, I applaud you keeping up with this, particularly the closing of the city parks and getting the information out to the residents. People aren't going to be happy about it, but it's for everyone's safety. So things are going to change over the next couple weeks, and I would say just keep on top of it, and if we need to make adjustments, you can certainly do that unless you need council approval. We can always have a council meeting.
Yep. And that's another thing that I have in here. There are certain emergency authorities that the mayor and council have. We will, if it is a council, if it needs a council approval or anything like that, we might have to call an emergency meeting to get that going. So if you guys stay by your email, try to read your email at least once a day. That way, if something comes up, we can talk about that as well. Anything else for that item? I did want to get your guys' thoughts too. I was talking to Deb and Steve before the meeting. Shutting down a park is kind of hard to do, especially with playground equipment. There are towns around us that are putting caution tape up all over the place or snow fence to keep people out. If that is something that you guys want to do, I can certainly talk to Tony about getting that done. But once again, it's caution tape and snow fence. If people want to get in there, they're going to get in there anyway.
I think that if we just post on the city webpage and on Facebook that the parks are closed, and that means that the restrooms are closed, that the people are not to use the playground equipment and shelters, and that failure to comply will result in we will be asking the police to enforce the closure. And if we want to add that that doesn't mean you can't, or that the parks, you can walk through the parks. It's just that we can't have more than 10 unrelated individuals, and everybody has to remain 6 feet apart.
So my other question that I completely forgot to ask throughout this, the disc golf course. We can say the park is closed. Disc golf course, you're not having more than 10 people at one hole at a time. Those are further than 6 feet apart. Is that something that we wish to have Story County enforce if they're on the disc golf course, or don't worry about it?
People need to get out and do things. That's why I think we just need to close it for gatherings of 10 or more people, and that use of the park means that you have to keep socially distanced 6 feet.
And I think one of the reasons the governor requested specifically that playground equipment was closed to the public. We don't know how long the virus stays on certain surfaces, especially metal. So that's the big thing. I think that's one of the main reasons some of these towns are completely blocking off the playground equipment. So
well, that would mean that the disc golf would fall into the same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's metal, and somebody has the illness and they touch it, and then somebody else comes up and they touch it. It's now transmitted.
Yep.
So I guess by that same logic, the disc golf is closed also.
Any other thoughts on that? Okay. Item 8B, complaints. Were there any complaints aside from dog waste and not being able to?
I got a complaint about 609 Main Street, up by Ray Traub's, that house they tore everything apart. It just has a skeleton.
Mm.
The shingles are flying off of it again.
Okay.
Has he not? I thought that he had to have something completed by a certain date.
He did get well, he hasn't paid for it, but he's got a permit.
Well, then he doesn't have a permit. If he hasn't paid for it, he doesn't have it.
That's what he's gotten. I mean, he's applied for one.
Okay.
He hasn't paid for it yet, and that permit will be expires in September, I think.
Well, I think we should turn the matter over to the attorney for enforcement as a dilapidated building. He does not have an active permit. And so we should be seeking to acquire the building as a what's it called, it's like we'd be doing for Garrison's,
Abandoned property.
abandoned property.
This is,
609 Main Street, on the north side of town. It's a house, not even a house. It's a kind of like a shack that has 2x4s and that's it. No siding. Is that something that we want to discuss in our May meeting as an action item?
No, I would, just turn it over to the attorney,
Start the process.
start the process.
Are you guys all in agreement with that?
yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right, let's start the process on that. Any other complaints for the good of the cause?
Stray cats,
Stray cats,
same area.
same area.
But different person.
Same person.
No, different person causing the problem.
Yeah, different person causing the problem. Same person complaining.
The Trouts are complaining about, okay, okay.
What's the address?
They're up at around 609 Main.
Okay. Cat problem.
What are the things that we can do?
Trap them.
And have Story County come up and take them. Okay. You guys okay with? Don't really know what else you can do with them aside from trapping them and taking them elsewhere.
don't they charge us for that every time they have to come and pick them up?
They sure do.
Mm.
So do we trap them and wait till we get like 6 and then say, hey?
No, we can't, we can't do that, because we do not, have any kind of a shelter license. So we cannot impound ourselves. But we can trap and we can transport immediately. Or we can have them come down and pick up. Now, if they come down and pick up, they charge us a fee unless it's during the day or,
This is during the day.
and if we're trapping a cat, it would be trapped overnight, right? So we place the trap at night, we go back the next morning, and if we catch one, we call Story County, they come down, they're still gonna charge us $35 or something like that, not for transportation, but for, just taking it.
Right.
Thoughts on that?
I don't really think there's anything else you can do besides trap them.
Right.
We can ignore them or we can trap them.
Is everybody in agreement to go ahead and start trapping stray cats?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
We will add that to Tony's list to do. Any others? Perfect.
Do we know on that, the stray cat thing, is somebody feeding them and that's why they keep coming back to that particular area?
That's what I have heard, but I have not witnessed myself.
Is there anything in any ordinance about that we have that says that they should not do that and that they could be fined or a letter sent to them or something?
I think you'd have to get the evidence before that would be taken out. So if somebody were to grab a picture of somebody taking a cat off the street and bringing them into their house or underneath their porch or something, we can do something about that. But if there's no evidence, I mean, you're innocent until proven guilty, I guess. So
And in the past where we've confronted individuals, they rightly say, well, they're not my cats, so they're not responsible for allowing them to be at large. It's just that they set out food because they're concerned about starving cats.
Sure.
Let's start the trapping process. If you guys come up with a better idea, we can talk about it in the council reports come next month. Does that work for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's do council reports now, starting with Steve.
Nothing.
Alex?
Couple of things.
Yep.
I saw the other day, driving down by the park, there were some kids on the tank. I thought at one time we talked about putting signage up down there that no climbing or stay off the tank or whatnot.
I think-
I'm assuming we're not allowed that.
I think there is signage on the tank, isn't there? It says no climbing.
I didn't see anything from the road.
Okay.
And then.
I thought we had to take it down because then it made us liable if they fell.
Yes.
Dude.
Okay. There's your answer, Alex.
All right. Next, I see a lot of locates on Baldwin. I've gotten a lot of questions about that. Is that one of our projects? Is that a resident doing a project?
This is Wes.
Yeah.
Yes, that is our project. That's the Baldwin resurfacing,
Okay.
work. They're doing their cores and their, pavement analysis right now to get a recommendation for what we're gonna do for potential resurfacing or rehabilitation of that area. So that is us.
Okay.
But it should be it's not construction work. It's just their field investigations, but because they're poking holes in the ground, even though they're only 6-inch diameter, they still gotta do all the one call, so.
All right. And then my next question is at the last meeting, we brought up meeting with US and I don't know, maybe somebody else from Snyder about the bid for a building. I was just curious if it has happened or if it's gonna happen. What's the plan?
The bid for the building, refresh my memory,
Is this
Last
for,
I remember was the bid for the project jumped from 3.2 to 3.8
Oh.
million. A lot of that was
Yeah.
for the building.
right, yes. So, we are working on some value engineering on that one. I don't have anything to give you guys yet, but we are working on that right now. It looks like some of the options we talked about last time about possibly doing some external blowers, with the ability to put a building around it should noise be an issue down the road, might be the cheapest way to go. But we're trying to track down some actual costs on that so that you've got some good numbers to go with on making that decision. So I should have something to you soon, but I do not have it done yet.
Okay. That'd be all I have.
All right.
All right.
Megan.
I have a couple of things. I had a person from the city talk to me about a go-kart problem that he is having with a neighbor. The neighbor's children are allowed to drive go-karts in their yard, but often come into the street and they lost control and went into his yard in doing so.
Okay.
And then I also have a couple of complaints about a black Firebird older model on April 3rd. I guess just going super fast up Main Street at high rate of speed. And also a navy blue full-size Dodge pickup. They thought maybe they were racing.
Okay. That last thing I think is something that we will have to take up with the deputy
Okay,
so they can look out for that.
okay. And then the only other thing, I actually had somebody contact me while we were having this meeting, and it would be about the bid for, it looks like the furnace.
Yep.
Again, Zach Styles and Custom Comfort.
Yep.
If you allow Custom Comfort to rebid, the way that Zach Styles did, then they could come in, $5 under him. So I think in order to ask for Custom Comfort to rebid, you would also have to ask for Zach Styles to rebid his job in order to keep it level.
Okay.
Because now Custom Comfort has seen his bid throughout this meeting.
Yeah, that's the problem of not having written specs on the front end. Yep,
We'll make sure we do that.
Okay.
As far as your first issue, the go-kart problem, to me, that sounds like a neighbor dispute. I don't think, unless there was,
a go-kart in the street is illegal. If,
I don't know if they fell under the same permit as like a golf cart. I don't know much about go-karts, honestly, so
no,
I didn't know what our ordinance exactly stated as far as, recreation vehicle.
unless it's a golf cart, it has to be a licensed vehicle.
Okay.
It has to be registered and licensed. So go-karts are not that, and a go-kart is not a golf cart. So golf carts are illegal also. If the kid, and you have to be a licensed driver. And so if it's a kid doing it, unless he's 16 years old, or has a learner's permit, but then he'd have to have somebody with him. I agree with Jameson that if the person is going onto private property, then that certainly is a issue that they need to resolve themselves. Going into the street, what we would need is a picture of it, clear enough to identify the vehicle and the driver, or at least the vehicle. And then we would work with the sheriff to get the thing resolved.
Sure, and I think the person complaining was more concerned about the child, getting hurt by being, typically they are in their own yard riding the go-kart. But like I said, this person lost control and ended up in the neighbor's yard. And I think he's just concerned about the child's welfare.
okay. Well,
That's a neighbor-to-neighbor issue.
but if they want to take a picture of said person on the street and let us know, we can certainly get that information to the deputy as well.
Okay.
Anything else?
I don't think I have. Nope, I don't think I do.
Doug?
Jameson alluded earlier that we are looking at a route that goes straight down to the sewer plant. In the discussion, we also posed the question if Rick Sidwell, the owner, would be interested in selling the whole parcel. He said he had to talk to his boss, that's my wife, that is. But that might be an option to consider. We don't know price at all, but I wanted to share that thought. The other thing I'd like to do, since everybody is pretty much confined to being home, this is a good time to do some cleanup, the backyard or side yard or whatever. We've got some residences that certainly need a facelift, and this would be a good time if we can encourage people to do that in some fashion. It would certainly be appreciated. It's sound looking good.
Yeah,
That's all I have.
I think we have a few junk cars that need to be removed.
Cool. Ken? Ken, you still on? You still with us?
Yes,
Okay, perfect. Trying to think of what I had. I had something and then it escaped my mind, so.
When do we decide whether or not we're going to do a spring cleanup?
May 16th.
And so at the next meeting, we should know whether or not all these social distancing orders are still in effect. And at the next meeting, we should make a decision as to whether or not it's going to get canceled this year.
And then to keep in mind as well, after May, we have our city-wide garage sales. So it's very plausible that those could get canceled as well.
And a question was asked of me about the insurance for the farmer's market. And so I sent that question to Gil, and Gil agrees it's a concern. And Deb checked with the insurance company, and and what was the result of that? Can you remember?
I think they said we were covered, didn't they?
We were covered, but they might see if the vendors would have their own insurance too.
And all they have to do is have the liability insurance, because they're going to be in the street, they're going to be in their booth, and if somebody were to stumble and fall on their table, then or if they tripped over the table leg, then they are going to have at least personal liability insurance.
So the thing with that is checking around. There are no other farmers markets that ask their vendors for that. It's been quoted, I think, to 2 or 3 of the vendors, and they said there would be no way that they could afford to come to Maxwell's Market if that's what we asked for, because they would be paying $300 or $600. Let me pull that up quick for that insurance. And if they're only going to be there 2 or 3 times out of the year, it's not cost effective for them to do that. $300 to $1,000, so I was a little off. $300 to $1,000, and I think that's probably per year. They would have to pay $300 to $1,000 in premiums per year.
And that's for personal liability insurance.
Correct.
So they don't have any liability insurance themselves? I don't know whether I would, what we're being asked to do is have the city accept the liability because the vendor doesn't want to have the liability.
That would be for the home vendors, not the ones that are LLC. Thoughts on that, folks? No thoughts?
Fall asleep.
Does the Mark have a policy? Aren't they under the Mark umbrella?
They would be.
Mark doesn't have a policy.
And it sounds like even the experienced vendors are having a hard time swallowing that in order to make that happen.
I saw an email, and maybe you've seen some more emails, but the email said that Mitchellville doesn't require it. Now, you know that there are others that don't require it?
Yeah, she brought up Marshalltown. Also doesn't require it. I think she said Nevada. Um, I think bigger towns, when you go to like Ankeny or Des Moines, I think those are who really require it. However, when you look at those bigger towns, there are also a lot bigger vendors there. So places like restaurants have their own liability insurance. Obviously, that's already put in there. So this can also be a discussion item for next month as well. Lauren went ahead and I think canceled at least the first.
Well, this was gonna be every week, wasn't it? Or was it just once a month?
It's every week.
And so it's all canceled through the month of April?
Yeah, well, she's postponing. Let me pull this up here. Postponing the market until further notice. She's going to still promote it and share it as she truly believes in it, but is going to keep us up to date. But she's still going to try to get vendors to come. But if obviously social distancing continues, there's no way to have a market if we have to social distance. So other than that, my last thing on here is I just want to thank you guys for the work that you put into the addition to town, and that we passed those readings and ordinance or in zonings. It's a big thing for our town, and I think we're going to see a lot of good come out of that. So thank you all for supporting that. And given that, we'll move on to item 9, consent of agenda. So we got the minutes, March 2nd meeting minutes.
You can prove all of it.
Everybody was at all the meetings. Move approval.
Moved by Steve,
Second.
second by Alex. Discussion. Alex?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Ken?
Wake up, Ken.
Okay, Steve.
Yes.
It has been, both minutes have been passed.
Move we adjourn.
Moved by
Second.
Steve, second by Megan. Ken?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Megan?
Yep.
Steve?
Yes.
All right, we're out of here.
Has anybody been watching YouTube?
I've been on and off, but it's pretty glitchy on my end.
Well, I keep getting kicked off the network. So the TV goes to screensaver and doesn't have the slides. And I have no idea why it keeps kicking me off. We didn't have that problem when we tested it on Friday. So that's just another thing we need to work on, I guess.
Well, if it's any consolation, our church has the same issue on Sunday, and it might just be that there might be a whole bunch of city meetings and bandwidth is limited tonight. I don't know.
Well, we'll try to figure it out. But so the television didn't work very well this time because kept getting kicked off.
We'll figure out the glitches, and hopefully next time there's nowhere to go but up, right?
That's right.
All right, thank you all.
Have a good night, guys.
Yep, you too.
Everything's good.
Bye. I'm gonna squeak by you so I can stop that. Reporting.
Everybody has hung up.